What's up YouTube, my name's Quickie, welcome back to the channel. Yeah, I hope you had a good Christmas. Ours was blinding, absolutely epic, loved it. We had a house full, it was excellent. But yeah, we're going to be eating turkey, beef and gammon for days. Last one you saw, I got all this finished up, very pleased with this. There are still a few little nicks and stuff that I need to sort out. Like where I stitched this return lip on the front. It was all just done with sort of stitching tacks together basically, so there's a couple of little gaps in there, a couple of little divots. I can just zap them with a welder and then grind it down and that'll all be good. And obviously just dress in these little bits here, get it all nice and smooth, jobs are good. So that's all sweet. So, this really does need a bit of attention. I don't think we've been too kind to the tank in the workshop because it's got scratches and gnarliness going on and all sorts of stuff, but we can dress all that out. Because this and this is just going to be a brush metal finish and then lacquered over top. We'll probably do it in like a flat self-etching clear coat or something like that, I suppose. I don't know, we'll cross that bridge later on. But brush finished, lacquered over, sound. So the next bit I need to do is fill in the bit in the middle with the seat pan. And that's going to be interesting because I want to do it out of one piece. Well, actually, I know I can't do it out of one piece. It's going to have to be two pieces, but the main shape of it I want to do out of one piece because I've got Sherman and he did good on that, so I want to see if he can do this. I ain't got a clue how I'm going to do it at the minute. I'm still making that up. It's actually going to be in two pieces because there's going to be a lip that overhangs the seat hump by, I don't know, 15 mil, something like that. Not much. But I want an overlap there. I don't want it just butted up. I don't want any water getting in the gap. So it's going to be a bit overhanging there. I've got the ECU and the M unit in just so we can see what clearance we've got, because it's going to have to come down and then kind of scoop out, leave a little bit of room for wires and everything else to come out of the top of the M unit. A bit stupid really. Why don't I stick them on the side? I mean, that would be so much more helpful, wouldn't it? Anyway, so it's going to come down like that, go along, and then it's going to come up at the front to about there. We've got this nasty bit on the back of the tank, which we've had a go at dressing out and everything else, and it's not happening. This is where the old seat used to rub, and ordinarily you'd just like body fill it and paint it and everything else, but this is going to be just brushed metal. I'm going to try dressing this out a bit more. I've got to go over the whole tank anyway because we haven't been very kind to it in the workshop. It's got scratches and everything on it, bit of flash rusting. So all that's going to need dressing up. But this tank was really, really thin, like really thin. Look at it with a welder and this hole suddenly appears. So I'm probably going to put a reinforcing plate over top of this and weld it around, just because I don't know, it has been wearing and it's not even, and I don't want to take anything more off of it. I want to put stuff on it rather than take it off. So I don't know, I've got to sort that bit out, but the seat it needs to come up at the front anyway, just so Steve-O's got a bit of padding for his plums for when he hits the brakes. And as it comes up, it's then going to come round to the side, and it's because I want to take up and fill this triangular bit in here because it's a stupid shaped tank. Why they did it like that, I don't know. Why couldn't you just bring it down level? I mean, that would be nice, wouldn't it? I mean, obviously it's, you know, they didn't have the back end of that frame on it, and I should have probably done the frame differently, but I wanted that bit straight. So we're left with this little triangle that I need to try and take up as well. So that means there's going to be a curve that way and a curve that way. And then it's going to come out at the edges at the front, but it's also got a tip in at the top, because obviously this is closer to than this is. And then also I want it to roll over the sides. And I want to do it out of one piece. Oh God. I don't know if I could do it. I mean, they're not massive curves, apart from the one over. I'd see. I don't want to have it flat and then just like that on the end, just because I think you'll feel it through the foam. And like we are going to be track daying this as well, which means getting off the side of the bike and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want there to be a ridge there because you will definitely feel that under the padding. So this has got to be radiused. I could use another bit of tube, cut it, and stick this piece onto that piece. But I don't really want to do it that way either. I could use that as a former, I suppose. I don't know. We're just going to have a play and see what happens. But it's going to be a pain of a thing to do. Just because of all the curves. And I've got to get it symmetrical as well. That's the other thing, obviously. I can't have one side sticking out and not the other. So, where are we going to start? I'm thinking maybe an arts and crafts day and do a cardboard template and mock it up as best I can. It's not going to be exact because cardboard, it's that corrugated stuff and it kind of crinkles as it goes. But I might try doing a cardboard template first, because that way I can tape it all in place. I can send Steve-O a picture and he can say yay or nay. And if he says nay, I'll just ignore it. But then I can just unfold the template, and that's me starter for 10 with how much metal I've got to cut out. And then it's a case of shaping it. I don't know. It is going to be awkward, isn't it? It's going to be very awkward. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Okay. Ugh. Right, so you obviously see from here everything, well, hopefully you can. I don't know. This obviously sticks up higher than the tube, then we're going to have wires that's coming out the top here that are going to have to do a bit of a U-ey, and then I can feed them all down the sides. The cables coming out the back of the ECU aren't a problem. The plugs are this side, so that will just come out and come down here. So that's not an issue, but they're all at different heights and everything else. So I just want to lay things out just so I've got some sort of point of reference. So these are all just offcuts of stuff I've got laying around. Shove that there. Something like that. Where did I put my thing? There we go. Right, so that's going to give us 10 mil clearance for the wires to come out. And then you've got padding on top of that as well, so a little bit more than the thickness of the rule, I guess. But I ain't going to get it any smaller than that. Not going to have the clearance that I need. Right. Oh, that could work all right. It comes up to the bottom here, so I could, the roll over here at the bottom of the tank. What sort of radius do we want on the back of that? What pipe have I got? Tubes! Tubes! You don't need to be much of one. This is what we might be using for the exhaust jet. I don't know. But if that was to go around that sort of radius, probably wants to be a little bit, well, does it? No, see, because if I keep it quite tight, there's a lot of strength in there, and you can make the shape of the seat, the top, as he wants it, with the upholstery and foam. So that might, I could use that as a former. Okay. And we could probably use it at the front as well. Right. Right, can you see that? I don't. Can you see the black outline? Yeah, possibly. Right, Steve originally wanted it to come down to about here, but to me it looks wrong. Partly because of this stupid little bit in the corner. Somehow we've got to fill that in. But also if you look at the angle that that line's at and the angle that this line's at, if I move it up literally 10-15 mil, it's the same angle, pretty much. And it's quite a small seat. Literally all I've done is cut a piece of cardboard up, spaced underneath as you saw, so I've got the clearance underneath for wiring and all that malarkey. The black line represents the outside edge of where the seat would be. So that's where the upholstery is going to finish, the leather on it. This bit is going to be the pain. This bit is going to be a proper pain. A good reason to do it with cardboard is if you're trying to get it through a curve and round a bend and all this kind of stuff, you often end up cutting it so you can put darts in it. And where you form it around the shape, if you get gaps opening up between the cardboard, obviously that's where you're stretching the metal. And if you have to overlay the cardboard as it goes around a curve, then essentially that's where you're shrinking it. The only real stretching going on is this bit here. It's the front bit that's going to be an absolute pain, but I reckon that is sort of, because it's a little curve here, and then by the time you get, you know, like, I don't know, 20 mil of padding on this as well, I reckon that's it. I reckon we're all good there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send him a picture of this, see if he thinks it's okay, and if he is, then that's what I'm going with. And then what I'll do is I'll, just with a razor blade or something, or craft knife, I'll cut along the outside edge of this black line. Then I can open it all out. And I've only done half of it, obviously, so I can open it out and flatten it out as much as I can do. And I'll have to put darts in it where I'm going to have to stretch it and blah blah blah. But then I'll just do another template of this and mirror exactly what I've got here for this side, obviously. Open it all out, and that's the bit of metal that I'll be chomping out. I will leave a little bit extra, obviously. And this back bit where it overhangs, this is going to have to be like a separate strip, probably from about there. This will be a separate strip that just gets welded onto the seat pan. So I am going to have to do it out of two pieces, but that is the sort of shaped seat that I think would look all right. I think that'll look really good, actually. It covers up everything we need to cover up. There's a little overhang on the sides. Yeah, we could be onto something there. Right, where's my camera? Okay, so this is my template. Need that bit. Okay. That's how it's obviously going to go on the bike. You can see there is quite a curve to this. And it's going to be awkward because it's curving that way. It's also curving that way. And it's also got a curve this way on this side bit too. Because it's going like that. That is going to be hard to do. if I'm honest, I don't know what is the best way to do this. I haven't got a clue, because that is quite a bit of stretching going on there, and it is a very odd shape. Right, okay. Well, you can see on the back here as well, where you got gaps in the cardboard. So that's essentially where I'm stretching that part of the cardboard to get it around. So we're going to need a little bit more metal. If I just flatten this out, I'll get a big pucker here. So we're obviously going to need to cut this over size. It's just a case of how much. I mark it up so I can see where all the stretching needs to take place. This is going to be fun. Okay, so hopefully you can see here, all I've done is on my template, I marked the start and end point of the bend, just as it marries up to the frame. That's only rough because this is cardboard and no way does it bend, you know, true or anything else. But at least I've got a start point. I've left myself a little bit of wiggle room at the top here, okay? I've got this piece of tube which we're gonna use to obviously bend this around, and if you look on the outside, it's all a bit marred up and nasty and scored and everything else. It's sort of hard to have a look and see where the seam is. But if you look inside, you can see a quite definite line in there, and that's going to be parallel all the way down the centre. Okay, so all I've done is mark both ends, and on the outside I've just marked a line. So the idea is that this is going to get clamped on the end of the desk, with that line all lined up to it. This line will be also married up on the end of the desk. I'll clamp the whole thing down, and then I'm going to bend this around the tube to get this first curve in it. I'm leaving all this on for now. I'm probably going to slit it just so it doesn't take up any stretch or anything else once I start wheeling it, but I'm leaving all this on just because it just seems like a sensible move. So that's how we're going to get that first bend into it. So I need to set this up. As far as how much bending goes, I'll be using one of these things. So you can, I think I've shown these before, but it's like a digital protractor jobby thing. So let me just show you. So as you tilt it, you can always see the degrees of inclination changes, and it's nice because you get a number rather than having to read a dial. So what I did is I plonked this on the frame rail, which slopes up slightly, let everything settle, and then hit reference. So that essentially sets that angle as 0. And then I stuck it on the back of the seat hump to find out what the angle is going to be. And obviously this gives you a difference in degrees, I guess, essentially. And it turns out 67 degrees, which is fine. That's how much of a bend I need to put into this. So whilst it's all clamped down, all I'm going to do is stick that on here, which I know the bench isn't flat, but it's close enough. But I'll set it on there, I'll take a reference, and as I bend it up, I'll just plonk this on here and keep tweaking it until I get 67 degrees, and then hopefully we should be pretty close. I'm not just going to be able to sit this in on the bike, because obviously there's stuff that comes up here, like, you know, mounts and various other bits and pieces and a battery tray and all sorts of stuff. So I've got to go by measurement to start off with until this front bit gets bent up as well. I'm still thinking about the front bit and how I'm going to do that. But it's all interesting, isn't it? We'll get there. It just might take me a while, that's all. Right, not sure if you can see this, so I'll bring you down and have a look. That is about as close as I'm ever going to get it. 0.05 of a degree off. That I can live with. So that's the first bit done. Reason for using the flat bit of bar across here. Obviously I got it started, but then putting a flat piece of bar on just means you keep all this nice and straight, so you don't get curves in it where you're pushing it with your hands. Simple thing, but effective way of doing it. Okay, so all I've done here is put a little bit of a slit either side there. Reason being is I'm going to start rolling and stretching all this stuff. And from when I was using Sherman before, I found that as you're stretching stuff, the metal's got to go somewhere, and it's going to pull and push and do all sorts of funky things, and I don't want it going into this back panel and messing up this curve. This curve is lovely. Look, it's all nice and dead smooth. And I really don't want to mess it up, because that's going to be a good fit. So putting a slit there hopefully is going to stop an awful lot of distortion in the back here anyway. These sides are going to go over, so you know, it's not like it's needed at all. And then this is going to get chopped out, and an edge piece is going to get welded in and come down onto the side. So I'm not going to need any of this, that's all going. I just don't want to affect it whilst I'm doing this next bit. What I'm thinking I'm going to do is get the template, I'll mark all this out and put a centre line in on this bottom bit so I know where I'm going, and that will run parallel to obviously these slits, so I know that's all square, because that was on the start of the bend line for this bottom piece. That's not a centre point, that's the start of it. So we'll come off at 90 degrees here, get the template, stick that back on and start chomping some of this stuff out. And what I'm probably going to do is start curving it this way slowly from here to the front, so it'll be a little curve getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now that's going to have the effect of pulling the panel in, which isn't a problem, because it's kind of got to do that anyway, and I don't want it to be an absolutely dead flat thing from front to back. I want there to be a little bit of a shape to it, just because it's going to make it more comfortable to ride. You don't want to be sitting on a plank, it's got to have a bit of a shape to it, because your bum's not dead flat. So that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, seems like a plan. Right, okay, just to bring you in and show you what's what. Actually, we need the template. So the template, see, this is going to go up and kind of curve around something like that. Hopefully you can see. So it's going to be quite tight at the top here, and then the curve will open out as it gets to the edge. This side is going to be scooping out, and this whole bit is going to be like that. So what I want to do is to start putting a crown in it from back here somewhere, So it starts to crown, and that's going to make this bit a little bit easier to do, I think. But we'll have to wait and see. So all I've done here is marked everything up. So we can see obviously where the back hump is going to go. Got the curve in it. I've marked the centre line. That's the dotted line that comes all the way down. And then using the template, all I've done is transferred some of the measurements to the steel. So this is where I'm going to start, and I'm going to start putting a little crown, get bigger and bigger and bigger the further we get towards the front. Okay, and what I want to happen is for that crown to be more pronounced as it comes to the front, because it needs to curve up as well. So it's going to be interesting. I'm toying with the idea of bashing it with that. Haven't quite decided yet. I'm still chewing it over and looking at YouTube videos on the best way to do it, because this is like it is a complex curve. It's kind of like a double reverse curve. It curves in all three directions, but the directions in which it curves are at odds with one another. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. We shall see. I mean, if I cock it up, I'll just make another one and do it differently. But I'm doing this now. Right, I've sort of evened this one out. It's not, there is a tiny little, it kind of rides up, but this is going to be, I don't know, I'm going to have to monkey about with it a bit more, I think. I'm just thinking it might be easier to do if I start bending it up here, so essentially stretch the back side of this so it starts to curve up. It's going to bring this further up the tank. And this last little bit's all going to get chopped off anyway, because I left excess. So I think I'm going to try doing that. I could probably do with marking this again, just so I know where to stay. Where's my ruler? I'm pretty impressed with Sherman though. Like I say, this is 2mm thick. That's going some, actually. So we want to start 120 and we want to end around the 180. It's only a rough guide, but I like having lines to work to. I found, especially when you're new into all this, just the more references that you've got, that's not long enough, is it? Not about there, I do. The more references you've got, the better. And they haven't got to be absolutely dead on accurate or anything else, but, you know, because they're only guidelines, but the more you've got, just the easier it is to sort of stay true to your original plan. So that's what I'm doing. Right, we've got quite a shallow crown on this anvil. Well, there to start with, I would think. A bit more. Right, so trying to keep the panel as flat as I can, just because I don't want to curve it that way, if it makes sense, because there is the tendency it wants to, because that's obviously the smaller radius on the anvil. I want it to just curve that way. Right, tracking's pretty much sorted. Well, we're getting a bend in it, that's for sure. You see that? So it kind of goes up. I've got that hump there, which is going to go onto the back of the tank. It needs to be more pronounced, I know. But I want to start to raise it up a little bit. And that is starting to go. It's, yeah, so just having a look at it on the bike, the tank is going to kind of come here. And then you've got the side bits obviously that come in here. I'll get the template out again and I'll put the drawing back on here so I can see exactly where I'm going. But this is kind of where the front of the tank's going to be. Or, sorry, the back of the tank, front of the seat. And it's going to wrap around the tank to fill in those stupid little corner bits. But we're getting a little bit of shape to this. It has gone that way a tiny bit, so I need to pull that back. But it is definitely getting there. How am I going to pull that back? I think I just need to flatten this piece here out. Stretch that a little bit. Yeah, because it comes up very slightly on this end. Right. Okay. Flatter anvil. Got it. Right. Yeah, spot on. Okay. Let's see how much more I need to bring it up. Right, so I don't think we're a million miles off on this. What I do want to do is to figure out this front end. Obviously you can see this needs to come up an awful lot more yet. And it needs to roll around the sides. So we're probably still quite a ways off. I think the thing that's hampering it to a degree is all this excess metal that I've got. So I'm going to trim it up a little bit, I think. Yeah. Thing is, wherever I've got excess metal, as you're rolling it, all that stretched metal's got to go somewhere, and obviously it's going into here, and I've got a bend here and a bend here, another one down the front, and it just sort of constrains it all. So we're going to chop it down a little bit and see where we go from there. Where did I put my marker? Where's that gone? There we are. It's tricky. It really is tricky. Because these edges here are going to roll over. And I'm going to need to start wheeling from there on out. So this line is going to come in. But unless I chop these bits out, I don't think I'm going to get as much shape in it as I need to get into it. So I think it's angle grinder time. I do hope this works out. I can see the sides having to be a separate piece. That in itself isn't really a problem, as long as I don't really need to come up further than here. Because these, I can just roll around a piece of the tube that I've got on the frame, chop them off to length, tack them in, get them all nice and squared up, and weld it all in place. So I'm really not too worried about that. It's this front piece, because it's got to go up like that, as well as round like that. And these side pieces need to come forwards. So I think I'm chopping it up. Ow, my knees hurt. Right. So, just offering this up at the minute, just to see kind of where we are and quite how far it's got to drop. You can see it's nice and straight down the back here. This is going to come out level. Obviously this is tipped up a little bit, but that's going to be level across there. And then you can see what I'm trying to do with this front bit, kind of put a raised bit in the middle of the seat so it comes up to meet the tank. It's actually going to meet the tank about there-ish. So this has got to be dropped by half yet. The gap from sort of top of this to where it needs to be still isn't quite as much as from here to the top of the tube. So this still has to come up. And yeah, it's taking its time. There's a nice little crook to it there and stuff as well, and by the time these sides are kind of bent over and come down and follow the side rails, I think that's going to be all right. I just need to get the front of this here to come up more, sort of something like that, just so it matches, you know, marries up with the tank quite nicely. So we're part way there. Still a hell of a lot to do, the other thing, I'm looking at this, depending on where that crown comes in, where this crown here comes up, this side piece I'm hoping is going to stop about here. Reason being is because I need to sort something out with these little triangle bits here, because they're going to need to be filled in. I'm not sure quite where this is going to end up sitting. The side rails may be a separate piece, might be a separate piece, I don't know. I just need to keep plodding and see where I end up. But if I can get this shape in the front done and the sides folded over, so I've got, you know, nice bits for these chunky thighs and stuff to go, then we'll just see where we end up down the side here. And if I have to make up side rails and tack them in and weld them and stuff, then fine, that's what I'll do. It's probably a bit adventurous to try and do it out of one piece, and it is 2 mil thick. 2 mil, that takes an awful lot of shaping. Right, let's crack on with it. He's getting there, slowly but surely. It is tough stuff to work with 2mm steel. Sherman is built like a tank, it has to be said, and he is doing a blinding job, but it does take a lot of moving. That said, the movement he's doing is actually really, really nice. I don't know, can you see it? I'll try and do the zooming thing. Can you see this? It's all sort of, it's getting there. So you've got a curve here, slight curve there, crown in the middle, and I'm starting to bring these sides down as well. I did bash it with this thing, you know, the mallet and the sandbag, and just planished it out on the wheel. It only took like, I don't know, 5 minutes to get it smooth. So he is a beast of a thing, is Sherman, and it's all nice and symmetrical as well. I'm finding the best way of doing this is literally just to sneak up on it, but that way you keep the shapes and the curves and everything else where you want them to be, and if it starts going off, you can spot it early and you can correct it. Whereas if you just, you know, at it like anything, then it'll get away from you quick as anything, because he does move 2mm of steel and he does it well. All my tracking lines are a lot better as well. They're a lot closer together. There's no lines to be felt in this. I know you can see lines on top, but that's just where the, you know, the rollers are hitting the metal. But there aren't really any lines on top of this, which is nice, and the underside's all good too. So that'll be peachy. This is obviously all just going to get powder coated and then upholstered. So, you know, you ain't going to see hardly any of the metal unless you take the seat off and have a look underneath. But I still want it to be a nice finish. I don't want lines in it or any of that malarkey. It's got to be nice. You're putting this much work into it, you know, why skimp? You know, just do it properly, innit? So anyway, yeah, happy with this one. What I need to do now is, you see this curve that I've got here at the front. The curve that way is done by the lower anvil, the shape of the anvil, but it will tend to curve this way as well because of the top wheel. To stop it from doing that curvy thing like that, I need a rubber band on the top wheel just to basically stop it from doing that. And I ain't got one. I've got one on order and it's coming on Monday. So I'm going to fit that to it, and then what I need to do is to stop this curling that way and make it curl that way. Which is going to be interesting. Which is going to be very interesting actually, because I've never used a rubber band. Yeah. Well, that's what they do on all the YouTube videos, isn't it? So yeah, that's what I'm doing. So that's going to turn up on Monday, and then I can carry on with the next bit. And if I can pull this up at the front, then I can start to force these side bits here and here to go down a bit more as well, which would be sweet. And then I've just got the sides to worry about. I'm not sure about the very front bits where it goes into that little triangle gap by the side of the tank. I may end up still doing the sides as two separate pieces. I don't know. I don't know until I get there. But you know, we'll see. So far, it's looking all right. I'm happy with this. This is how it was going to look in my head. Which is a very dark and scary place. So anyway, that's where I'm going to call it for today. I'm hoping that the band turns up on Monday. I can stick that on and I can crack on with it. I'm back to work, like work on the 2nd. So I've still got a little bit of time I can put into this. And then once I am back at work, it'll be back, you know, during the week here and there and blah, blah, blah. And what I want to try and do is to get this finished for the weekend, because I'm hoping Steve-O's going to be up at the weekend, and if he is, then he can have a look at it and go yay or nay. But it would be nice to have it all finished. Whether I can or not, I don't know, because it is, I couldn't have picked a more complex shape to do, I don't think. And it's the bit that's taking the time is keeping everything absolutely symmetrical as I'm doing it, because I don't want it wandering off on me. So I don't know, it might get done, it might not. You might be here to see it get finished. I don't know. But anyway, that's what the plan is. I'll put this video up, you can see what I've done so far, and then the next one will just be me like finishing it off. Now, however long that takes, that'll be a part 2 to the seat pan. But that's where I'm calling it, because it's freezing cold in here and I need to go home and warm up. Such a Jessie. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us, and I'll see you next time. Laters!